Okay, aloha mai kako and good afternoon. Mahalo for joining today's AEN-TRS hearing. It's Friday, February 13th.
Aloha.
And we're convened in room 224 with video conferencing, which includes the audio and video of remote participants that's being streamed live on YouTube. And so, unlike the event that this hearing is cut short, the committees will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business on Wednesday, February 16th at 3:05 p.m. during AEN's time slot, and a public notice will be posted on the legislature's website. And let's see. We do have a 2-minute time limit, and there are on testimony. We have two measures on the agenda. The first is SB 2709, requiring the Department of Ag and Biosecurity to establish rules to enforce the Akamai Arrival Program, requires DAB to strengthen enforcement of plant and non-domestic animal quarantine, microorganisms importations. First up is DLNR.
Aloha chairs and members of the committees. My name is Patrick Chi from the Department of Land and Natural Resources and the Hawaii Invasive Species Council. We stand in strong support of this bill. We believe that the department and supporting the requirements of DAB to establish their rules to enforce the Akamai Arrivals Program. We believe that it will be helpful, very strategic in managing imports, which is the cornerstone of biosecurity prevention, preventing invasive species coming into the state. So we also support the various amendments that this bill makes in order to make certain parts of 150A mandatory rather than optional. There are many areas where that will help improve the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity's authority and enhance their capacity to fill their mandate in biosecurity. If you have any questions, I'm available over here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Next is DAB.
Aloha chairs, Senator DeQuate, Cedric Gates here on behalf of DAB. DAB stands on its written testimony offering comments in support of this measure. Here for any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you, Cedric. Next is Jacob Aki with Alaska and Hawaiian Airlines.
Aloha chairs, vice chair members, Jacob Aki on behalf of Alaska Hawaiian Airlines. We did submit comments. We did submit testimony with a few comments. Our company strongly supports the state's effort to protect our natural environment and to prevent the entry of invasive species. But we do have some concern with some of the language change, particularly as it relates to the state's authority to inspect our aircrafts. Our concern is a change on page 6 that goes from may to shall. The wording shift removes discretion and requires inspections whenever there is good cause, regardless of federally regulated operational control, safety timing, TSA protocols. And as you folks know, aviation is an area of exclusive federal authority. So aircraft access, crew duty limits, maintenance windows, and secure area entry are all federally governed. And without clarification, this creates a meaningful risk of federal preemption and operational conflict. We request that if this bill does move forward, a simple amendment stating that inspections must be conducted in a manner consistent with federal aviation safety, security, and operational requirements be added in. We did provide some suggested language in our testimony, but we strongly support the state's effort to ensure biosecurity enforcement throughout the state. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and we are available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Let's see. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Members, any questions?
Yes, questions for Jacob for Alaska Hawaiian Airlines. And the measure calls for the inspection on the aircraft.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I haven't gotten a chance to look at the scheduled timings for inspections. So the question I have, coming from the Committee on Transportation as well, and on an aircraft every week while I'm here for 4 months. The inspection, does it simplify when or designate a time for inspections? So is it all the aircrafts on all the islands? Well, except for those that don't have,
Inter-island.
yeah,
Yeah, so it would be-
island is just Hawaii, Big Island
Kona.
actually does not have overseas carriers except for coming August when.
Yeah, or in
So-
Kona, yeah. So
Okay.
it would be subject to flights that currently have the Akamai arrival form. So that's all flights coming into the state from the continent. So Hilo doesn't have
Okay.
any
All right.
flights until another carrier starts in August. But the timing, I don't think the bill does say when, when it happens. It just gives it changes the authority from may to shall. And we're just concerned that, if a agent says that there's good cause, and they say, well, the state law says that I shall, there are obviously some other federal nexuses that need to be considered.
Okay, another question. When the aircraft comes in, if the inspection, and that's why I talk about timing, the time they want it to be inspected, on arrival, if the inspection, once everybody, the passengers disembark, you have an empty aircraft. Does the inspection happen then? But then, and another concern is the inspections have nothing to do with luggage, I assume.
It might. I mean, I'm
Okay,
not
then
sure what the bill.
question you should
intends.
talk, you should confer with the chairs as well, because the delays for passengers coming out, disembarking, why would they have to wait forever to get their baggage pickup if there's going to be an inspection? So it's something, that the committees can deliberate. Hopefully that it doesn't move as fast, and I understand there might be some recommendations coming out from the chair, the lead chair. So take that in mind as well. Yes, the timing, I'll make sure that luggage are not, I don't know what the plans are. And so that's important because we want to continue moving and having our people visit Hawaii, also returning families.
Correct.
Yes, and our constituents as well, and people who are returning home.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
those are the issues, particularly when it has to do with the aircrafts. I know, we kind of have an idea about the harbors, but this is something new.
Yeah, no, Chair, and we just wanted to make clear that the airlines do not have a concern with working with the state, to inspect, but, being that the language in this bill does change it to shall, there could be concerns if there was an agent, as I shared, that said, well, I think there's a reasonable cause, I'm going to jump on, recognizing that there may be some operational impacts, which is what we want to make sure that if there is an ability for the state to do that, which I don't think we're necessarily, opposed to, that it does align with whatever the federal rules are, TSA,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
all of that, so,
All right, thanks.
thanks, Chair.
Go ahead.
Jacob, how many of those flights would be subjected for Alaska and Hawaiian?
For Alaska and Hawaiian, I would say maybe about 40 flights per day. That's
How many passengers on those flights? Max? Over?
each plane. If we've set out on the plane, about 300 people.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Chair.
I got a question for Dab. Cedric? So, Cedric, how is this bill going to strengthen the enforcement of the Akamai program?
Thank you, Chair, for the question. I have our subject matter expert, Jonathan, in the room. If Jonathan could join us.
Jonathan Ho, Plant Quarantine Branch Manager. As it relates the intent of the measure to create rules and to standardize, and, I think a lot of the mays to the shells. I think we agree with the intent of trying to ensure that there is more authority to do the work. But I think to the extent, I think similar to what the airlines are saying, I think it can't always be a shell. And I think we were trying to make sure that there's a clear balance to it. And I think to the extent of like rules as it relates to Akamai arrival, We, obviously, it's been in effect for maybe 9-10 months at this point, and again, we're using it only with the airlines. Obviously, it needs to be expanded to other modes of entry for other things, private jets, service vessels, things like that. So I think the idea of kind of for example, requiring the digitization only kind of conflicts with that, particularly as the way the system is set up. It uses a lot of automation through the same system DOT does to get the airline flight information. So trying to create that for everything else, I think the way the rules are, or the way the bill is set up, it may make it a challenge for us to be able to accomplish in a timely fashion.
Okay, thank you.
Can I add to that? And for the private jets, there's no secure, I mean, right now, the private jets arrive, passengers get out and they park they're parked, so there's really nothing more on their arrival. So I think with regards to the inspections, perhaps you have a little more time other than the regular scheduled aircraft, providers like Hawaiian or, because the private jets usually, if they come in and they stay for quite a while, for some of them. Now, there are emergency vehicles that are private charters that bring in from out of state families coming home in a private jet who's ill. And I know I've had several of families coming home in a private jet. What do you do with those as well? Okay. So just some input.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Quick follow-up. So Jonathan, on the smaller islands, Lanai, Molokai, when the private jets come in, how you guys would address that, because you guys don't have the inspection or the manpower or employees, even for that matter there?
Correct. So one of those challenges is, the small carriers, they do provide us with agriculture forms. So they're the same day. So generally speaking, for example, like with Molokai or Lanai, if there is something regulated, it's a lot of voluntary. Tell them it cannot be imported, and then we'll have to go and get it after the fact. It's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately, at this point.
I'd just like to add to that, Senator, is we are in the process and in discussions with our GIS staff to update some of the software needed to transfer some of the information. As we discussed in previous briefings and committee hearings, we're trying to use AI to process a lot of the information and data that DAB receives regarding these forms, and being able to flag what needs to be flagged and send that to our enforcement agencies, our divisions, to be able to address what we are receiving back in these forms.
Because we get the jets that fly in direct from the mainland as well. And I think, we're defeating the whole purpose if we have nobody there and then we just do the out of sight, out of mind, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay,
We
thank you.
agree. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay.
Sure.
Yes.
Question.
Senator Richard?
On the compliance, I think in one of the previous briefings, said about 75% compliance with inspection. What is the department's timeline, and what is the ultimate goal? 100% is the ultimate goal, but the realistic goal, and what's the timeline to get to that?
Yeah, so one of the biggest challenges is so there's the form, and then there's the check, I think, per se. And I think when you deal with people and their individual liberties, like to search them is difficult. The thing that we're trying to do is get back the use of detector dogs. So in the airports. And so we brought the program back for brown tree snake, and we use it limited for cargo. One of the dogs has recently retired, so we're sending the handler up, when is it now? April, to get a new dog retrained, and then to be able to be utilizing that dog at least in Honolulu, for baggage. So obviously at that point, the ability to compel inspection is going to be a lot easier because cause and everything like that. And So that's the limited one. The big picture as it relates to is we're trying to create a new series of biosecurity technicians to lower the educational requirements. Because right now they're all inspectors, so for your college degree. And what we want to do is create a new series with the technicians so that we can better, and with, a lot of bills to do the academies, to be able to have a pipeline for folks to be able to get in and then be disseminated throughout the state for that particular work.
And I think that's all great on the enforcement side, but on the Akamai arrival, what's the goal and what's the timeline to get that high 90%?
Yes, Senator, one of the goals of this measure is to give DAB increased enforcement ability. And what we're going to do with that is cite folks who are not completing it, but also give them an opportunity to complete the form within a timely manner before that citation kicks in. And this was derived from conversations we've had at the WAM AEN briefings, and we took the legislature's feedback and introduced this measure to try to address that concern, to get it to 90%. The timeline would be better answered by Jonathan on that end.
So there's, I want to say the citation portion is a little bit of a challenge, and I think there's a number of measures that are coming through the legislature this session that are actually going to really clarify that. And we're working with the Attorney General and the Department of Law Enforcement to have the staff retrained and then get the citations and everything back up so that once we get the dogs, we're going to be able to begin the citation process. And we're hoping to do that probably at the end of this year. But once we get the dog in, get them settled, get the staff trained, I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to do that by the end of this year.
And Senator, we'll make sure to get back to you on the official timeline on that.
Still have not given a timeline, thank you.
I got you.
Okay.
One more. Brown tree snakes. How many airports in the state are you inspecting for that, or is just for DKI?
So I would say like 99% of the flights are in through Honolulu or on Oahu. So that's not just Jordan Pace, Pearl Harbor, Hickam. That involves Barbers Point, Kaneohe Marine Corps Air Station. There are once in a while flights that do go to Kona or Maui, but those are generally private jets.
How many inspectors do you have? One for aircraft?
Yeah, so
many inspectors go
it
to-
would be a single inspector to do an
Single
inspection.
inspector. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Chair, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. All right, we'll proceed then with the next agenda item. This is the joint with the Committee on Transportation and the Committee on Agriculture and Environment.
No,
And,
we're still on the
oh, sorry.
3154, though,
Yes,
right? Is that the name?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
yes, yes. On SB 3154, and this is relating to transportation and the environmental review. This authorizes the DOT to assume responsibilities under the National Environmental Policy Act of 1969 for highway projects such as railroad, public transportation, and multi-modal projects within the state. And it allows streamlining environmental reviews. And this is an administration measure as well, members. This also is just clarifying the cooperation between DOT and with the federal agency with regarding to the Policy Act of 1969. So this is a very simple measure, just agreeing that the DOT and the state of Hawaii conforms to the Policy Act. DOT.
Hi, good afternoon, chairs, by chairs and members of the committee. Robin Shishiro with Hawaii Department of Transportation, and stand by our submitted testimony and strong support. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishes to speak to SB 3154? Okay. Hearing none, members, any comments with regards to 3154? Going once, going, oh, yes. Senator Decoy.
DOT. Hey, hi, Robin. So as provided in the bill, what would the department be able to do by assuming certain federal environmental review responsibilities under the National Environmental Policy Act that you cannot do now?
So right now, when we do our consultations, federal aid projects, we go through federal highways, and federal highways then talks to the resource agencies. So with this, then we'd be able to work directly with like U.S. Fish and Wildlife, SHPE for Section 106, NOAA, and for all the different resource agencies when we're doing our environmental clearance documents. So we just go directly to the federal agencies rather than going through federal highways.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussions on SB 3154? Okay, hearing none, members, Chair?
We'll go right into decision-making
Okay.
on the two measures.
On the two measures, yes, you have quorum.
Do I have
I don't.
quorum? You have quorum?
No, not at the moment, but why don't we do a recess for now?
Is that?
No, you get quorum. You need one more. You need one more. You need one more.
Let's take care of your bill first.
Okay, we'll just go through on the first measure, SB 2709. Yeah, the chair's we need to work some more on this bill, so we're going to defer the decision-making until Tuesday, February 17th at 3:02 PM in room CR 229.
Okay, and the Committee on Transportation, same recommendation, however, our dates will be different from, that's regarding SB 2709. Committee on Transportation will be deliberating and decision-making on this measure on February 17th at 3:01 PM in room 229.
Sorry, 302.
Okay. And retract. We'll meet in room at 3:02 in room 229 on February 17th. That's the Committee on Transportation. Okay,
Okay?
yes,
And that it?
okay. Can we go with our measure? And you can decide what you want to
Oh,
do
yeah.
with this, since you have quorum.
Yeah.
Chair's recommendation on the joint SB 3154 relating to transportation environmental review on this administration's measure. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, which is just technical on this measure. And that's it for it. That's the recommendation. The Committee on Transportation, we do have a quorum. We will be taking a vote on this measure. Senator DeCourt, will you be my assistant today to record the vote? Okay, so any discussions on Committee on Transportation on SB 3154? Hearing none, Vice Chair temporary, Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 3154 with amendments. Okay, Chair's recommendation and Chair's vote is to pass this measure, and I vote aye.
Thank you. Committee on Transportation, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair goes aye. Acting Vice Chair goes aye. Senator Elefante.
Excuse.
Senator Kanuha. Senator Lee. Excuse. Okay, Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you.
And for AEN, the same recommendation. Any discussion? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair?
Senate Bill 3154 passing with amendments. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit?
Aye.
Senator Rhodes? Aye. Senator Awa? Chair, you have 5 in favor. Motion adopted.
Thank you, members, and that concludes the 3 o'clock agenda.
Thank you. Hello and welcome to the joint hearing with the Senate Committee on Economic Development and Tourism and Agriculture and Environment. Today is Friday, February 13, 2026. This is our 3:01 p.m. agenda, and we're in conference room 224. This hearing is being streamed live on YouTube. In the unlikely event that we must abruptly end this hearing due to technical difficulties, the committee will reconvene on Tuesday, February 17, 2026 at 1 p.m. in conference room 229. This agenda has 3 bills. First bill is Senate Bill 2374, relating to a blue economy. First up, Department of Business Economic Development. Dane, please.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs of the Joint Committee. Dane Wicker, Deputy Director of DBED. DBED offers comments on this bill, and I'd just like to expand a little bit more on that outside of our testimony. What this bill asks for is to establish a working group. Currently, DBED sits on 20 working groups or task force. That does give us a capacity challenge in trying to administer and effectively run those working groups, as well as produce the reports in a timely manner. If the committee decides that a working group is the approach for this discussion, we would ask for resources. We don't have staffing capacity to administer this. We could look at contracting out, which would be roughly about $100,000 based on past practices. We've seen that happen with the speed task force, where monies were provided. We did see capacity challenges recently with our business revitalization task force, as well as the interagency food systems task force. But also maybe a recommendation to consider. The blue economy is critical at this point in time. This discussion really is. NELHA, ADC, HTDC, and Department of Agriculture executed an MOA to start looking at what the blue economy is and what is the plan and how do we get there. You know, most economic activities are land-based. We are very fortunate, given our geographical position, to look at not only land-based, but also ocean-based as well as space-based. And so this discussion is timely. Those agencies that I mentioned earlier have already begun to meet internally. The deliverables that are asked in this bill as an option outside of a working group, we would definitely like to explore it, and we would welcome it maybe being a formal request through a letter or a memo to the department for us to do that research and get back to you folks, even if it's at the end of this year ahead of the legislative session or earlier. That would give us more flexibility to reach out to those agencies or organizations that you've identified and for us to gather the information. Whereas with the working group, we would have to post agendas, take minutes and all of that
Can you
stuff.
wrap up your testimony,
Yes.
please?
So that's the consideration if you want to proceed that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Dab. Missing. Okay, in support, Chris Cofield for Imua Alliance.
Aloha, chairs and committee members. I know you're on the cusp of a 3-day weekend, so I'll be very brief. I'm Chris Caulfield, speaking to you today as the president of Imua Alliance. We'll really thank you for hearing this measure. We'd like to thank the introducer for sponsoring this measure as well. We're a gender violence service provider, but the reason that we're interested in this, we've been supporting energy and climate measures for a number of years because of the clear link between climate change and gender violence and sexual exploitation. But a lot of the survivors that we work with are actually working in or are receiving some kind of we consider some kind of culturally therapeutic care through blue economic ventures, and that's why we're particularly interested in this. The blue economic ventures tend to be very AEN-based, which can be very culturally relevant, culturally sensitive, and very useful for survivors of gender violence as they, work toward personal healing and restoration. As you just heard, there's a number of blue ventures that are already operating in the state. There's the Hatch Blue Ventures, there's NELHA, there's a number of aquaculture ventures and marine-based restoration ventures. And we think now is the time, as DBED had just said, to really come together to figure out a pathway forward for codifying what a blue economy could look like in Hawaii. There are studies that show that globally a blue economy could grow to up to $3 trillion by 2030. So this is an opportunity to look at how we can build a thriving industry and economic opportunity in this particular space. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you today.
Thank you. Next up, Sydney Haas, testifying for Hawaii Food Policy in support. Ron Tubbs, in support on Zoom.
Not on Zoom, Chair.
Thank you. Next up, Meredith, with comments. Glenn Kagamita, in support, and Jacob Wayne Sek in support. Anybody else wishing to testify on this measure? None. Members, any questions? I have a question for DBED, please. Then can the Governor's Advisory Committee on Marine Affairs carry out the functions of this proposed working group?
I have to get back to you on that, Senator, and check on what I'm not familiar with that, so I have to get back to you on that. That was the Governor's Marine Advisory Group?
Yeah.
Okay.
Marine Affairs.
Okay. I'll get back to you, Senator.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, moving on, Senate Bill 2907 relating to marine affairs. First up, Hawaii Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, Mary Alice with comments. Lawrence Sombardier testifying for NELHA on Zoom. Go ahead.
Aloha, Chair. We stand on our testimony. I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Next up, Trung Lam testifying for HTDC.
Aloha, Chairs, Vice Chairs, and members of the Joint Committee. Trung Lam with HCDC. Since I started in this position, we gathered 65 ocean sector organizations and came up with a clear message. The blue economy is a high-growth sector waiting for Hawaii to take its rightful place as a leader in the Pacific. Today, the blue economy contributes $10 billion in GDP and supports 97,000 jobs, or 16% of our workforce. That gives Hawaii both a strong economic foundation and one of the most compelling opportunities to diversify our economy in a sector aligned with our place, our culture, and our people. This bill responds directly to the industry's call. It formally establishes Hawaii as a focused ocean cluster and creates a unified task force under HCDC, along with a dedicated marine coordinator to align agencies, industries, and research institutions around a shared vision for growth. With this structure in place, Hawaii will be positioned to claim our rightful share of more than $100 million in near-term federal and private funding in the blue economy. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next up, Dab in support. Wendy Gady for ADC. Thank you, Wendy. Anthony John Escasa testifying for Pacific Impact Zone with comments. Valerie Harmon on Zoom testifying for Namaka Algae. Go ahead.
Aloha committee members, chair and vice chair. My name is Valerie Harmon. I'm the founder and CEO of Namaka Algae. I stand by my written testimony, and I want to add, Namaka Algae is focused on supporting local food production with locally grown microalgae. We are located at Nelha on the Big Island of Hawaii, where we have a biology lab, an engineering lab, and an outdoor cultivation space. We produce products for local animal feed producers, aquaculture feed producers, pet treat businesses, locally produced food and cosmetic markets. Our company is a startup and relies on support from our local ecosystem. We work with our local community colleges to support workforce development for algae and limu cultivation. We are a vital component of our vibrant blue economy. There are many entities working in the blue economy now. However, we have no way to organize and focus our efforts to make the most of Hawaii's undeniable opportunity to capitalize on our unique blue economy assets. As a longtime resident with children born and raised in our magnificent state, I have a vested interest in creating good quality employment to ensure my children and their children have valuable opportunities here in our home state. An organized Office of Marine Affairs and Task Force based within HTDC will provide a mechanism for us all to work together to create jobs and attract federal, philanthropic, and private funding, all of which will be critical to our companies and our state's success in supporting food security in our state, as well as our state's ability to retain our talent. We support formation of an ocean cluster in Hawaii. Thank you for your time and attention to this important legislation. Aloha.
Thank you. Next up, Doreen Wong.
Mahalo. Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, esteemed committee members. Thank you for being here today and listening to my testimony. I'm Doreen Wong. I also go by Dory. I'm a resident of Oahu, and I've been working for 14 years across a cross-section of technology, innovation, policy, and finance, and in the last 6 years specifically around the sustainable blue economy and ocean innovation. I've been supporting across the world, not only working closely with UN, but also on the federal level in DC for about 4 years, and also at the local level working with University of Hawaii. And I've seen this potential. So over the last several months, I've been able to see the work that HCDC has done to convene and bring everyone together to work on the sustainable blue economy and ocean innovation. And it's so important now as we think about our future of our economy here in Hawaii, but also our ocean's health. And it's disappointing when I'm going to events and I have people come up to me and ask, where is Hawaii? We would love to see more that could be done here in Hawaii. Where is that? And so I stand here to represent those thoughts and that we have the ingredients to be success. And we've seen what's possible as well too. So for example, UH has an HBU, they have well-known marine programs. We also have NOHA that has incredible infrastructure to support the cutting edge innovation as well as like clean energy for ocean and energy. We've also seen how our roots and our values and indigenous values and knowledge has played a key role in our ocean innovation and sciences. And so I am here because I've seen what's possible in other regions as well. For example, in San Diego, where they established their ocean cluster in 2007 to really help to champion this work for their region and demonstrated double the economic impact. So I strongly urge you to support SB 2907. And as stated in the U Hero report, is Hawaii being left behind? I quote, addressing the cost of living remains essential. With thoughtful, locally driven policy and renewed commitment to long-term value creation, Hawaii can move toward being left behind toward building a more dynamic and resilient future. So I strongly urge you to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Jimmy Freeze. And so,
Hi, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jimmy Freeze. I stand by my written testimony. I have a company here, high technology company that focuses in the marine space, performing artificial intelligence and computer vision. Work very closely with the Hawaii Longline Association, along with other fisheries around the world. Thank you.
thank you.
Strong support.
Next up, Noah Pentovich on Zoom.
Thank you. My name is Noah Penelovich. I am the head of hardware for Hohonu, and I stand by my testimony in support of Senate Bill 2907. Hohonu is a local company offering flood intelligence solutions, including designing and manufacturing our flood sensors here in Hawaii. We strive to source as many of our components as we can locally. We get our boxes from Rango Packaging in Kapolei, our machine parts from GT Scientific in Salt Lake, our housings from Pacific Pipe in Kalihi, and we have brought production in-house on components we used to fabricate in China. We are committed to sourcing from local suppliers or making components ourselves as much as we can. Companies, especially hardware companies like Hohonu, thrive when there's a strong, connected ecosystem of companies growing the local skill base and supply chain. Maintaining and coordinating those connections is an extraordinarily time-consuming and complicated task. Establishing an Office of Marine Affairs with a Marine Affairs Task Force and declaring the State and Ocean Cluster will have the positive effect of coordinating the local blue economy ecosystem, support our ability to grow, and support others' growth as well. We believe Senate Bill 2907 will enable that collaboration, and we strongly support its passage. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 10 people in support, one with comments. Anybody else wishing to testify on this measure? Please state your name and then go ahead.
My name is Dr. Nicholas Alm, Aloha Chairs and Vice Chair. I stand behind my written testimony with the following comments. I am the CEO and founder of Hawaii Ocean Power Solutions. We provide a wave energy buoy based off of the Halona blowhole. I have dedicated the last decade of my career and my entire adult life to addressing our state's food and energy security needs. I was born and raised here on Oahu, and I would like to see more people like me be able to continue to make it here. My story is like that of so many of our kama'aina. I spent as much time as in the ocean as I did the classroom. I grew up here and I went to college on the continental US. I received a degree in engineering, and unlike many of my friends, I was able to come back to the islands after. This happened because I was attracted back to Hawaii for my PhD at the University of Hawaii, because we have one of the best programs in the country, supported by a strong blue economy, with local companies such as Makai Ocean Engineering, Oceanit, and my own company able to hire local graduates. We have strong innovation and workforce development programs with groups like Purple Maya and Kupu, who are able to provide jobs that are good-paying jobs and deeply fulfilling. But in my process of starting my own company, I was privileged to be supported by UH, High Tide, and Hatch through the Ocean Foundry Incubator Program, both supported through the state. This was my first interaction with state-supported business development programs, which was transformative, but that support stopped at the transition of the federal government, which forced me to look towards the continent again through the NOAA Ocean Enterprise Accelerator. This exposed me to ocean cluster organizations, which Hawaii is not. And so I had to go back to the continent. So if we're able to designate Hawaii as an ocean cluster, we might be able to get that funding and bring more companies back to Hawaii like that. I strongly support this bill relating to marine affairs. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify on this measure? Okay.
Hello, Mike Ako. Good afternoon, Chairman, Vice Chairman, joint members of the committee. My name is Joshua Baghdadi, and my career is a testament to the power of the blue economy to connect ideas, activities, and people for the health and sustainability of our blue planet. I'm here because I want to testify in strong support of Senate Bill 2907 to establish Hawaii as an ocean cluster. I was homeschooled in the coastal state of South Carolina and studied electrical engineering at Clemson University. In graduate school, I was fortunate enough to work on a project funded out of the Office of Naval Research, investigating the use of semiconductor lasers for underwater wireless communications. While presenting my work at a marine technology conference in California, I met a physical oceanographer and ecologist who was out of the U.S. Coast Guard. He became my mentor in all things relating to the ocean. I was intrigued by the linkage of technology and marine sustainability that I found in this community, and I decided to pivot my career in this direction. My mentor introduced me to Margaret Edwards, who is currently serving as the director of the Applied Research Laboratory here at the University of Hawaii, and I started my career out here in Hawaii after graduating with my degree in electrical engineering from the mainland. I began here in 2017. So over the past decade, I've been involved in a myriad of marine-related projects, from ocean sensing with robots, buoys, and undersea cables, to supporting ecology studies for Hawaiian green sea turtles in Pearl Harbor. I've also been involved at the national and international levels as an ocean advocate. Like Dory mentioned, I helped co-found the Marine Technology Society Early Career Ocean Professionals Program, and I've also been involved with the United Nations Ocean Decade Early Career Ocean Professionals Program. We're currently at the midway of the UN Ocean Decade, running from 2021 to 2030. I was fortunate enough to be in the room at the United Nations Ocean Conference in Nice, France, this past June 2025, when about 30 countries adopted the High Seas Agreement to establish marine protections beyond areas of national jurisdiction. All this exposure and experience have convinced me that the blue economy is society's pathway to sustainable development in the 21st century, and I look forward to working with the state to catalyze a new area of development for us, for the state looking forward. Thank you very much.
Joshua, can I get a copy of that? I don't believe you had the testimony submitted.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody, go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is George Arbro. I stand here in supporting of 2907. Thought maybe I would just kind of color in my testimony that I support.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. I ran the Office of Innovation Commercialization programs for UH, where I supported a lot of these programs and entrepreneurs. I led the state in an opportunity to get $15 million to support ocean-based climate resiliency accelerator program, the one that he is going to the mainland for. We got to the final stage. They were excited to have Hawaii be part of the group that was in the final stages. In the end, we did not get it. The feedback was essentially your system, your ecosystem isn't ready yet. So for the last 2 years, I've been working Doreen and the people behind me to get us to that stage when there is an opportunity like this NOAA federal grant, monies can come to our state to help build jobs, help build ecosystems and technologies, that we're ready. That coordination is necessary, and that's what this bill is about. I thought maybe I would just add that to my testimony. Thank you so much.
I didn't see you submit testimony online.
Oh, I said I did.
I don't see it listed.
I checked yesterday. I'm happy to send it to you.
If you can, please.
Yeah, of course.
Anyone else wishing to testify, please state your name and.
Hi, I'm Brennan. I submitted testimony, but it might have came in late. But please review if you have the opportunity. Just want to add some additional perspectives. So I'm a local guy, proud graduate of the Moana Public School System, and UH as well. I spent 15 years there. I got my bachelor's, master's, PhD in engineering, studying maritime robotics, and then I worked with the Applied Research Lab, doing work for the Navy. I consider myself very lucky. I had, a lot of opportunity to follow my dream here in Hawaii and work locally. But I realized that that's not an opportunity for a lot of people because the industry doesn't exist. I think, about 20 years ago, there was a very conscious decision made by a community of people here to make Hawaii a early adopter of scholastic robotics programs in our public schools. I think that's benefited greatly sort of a cohort of scientists and engineers that I identify myself as part of to study science and technology. The unfortunate side effect is we're now exporting engineers to the mainland to work jobs that they were trained, born and raised here to do. So I think I feel very strongly that, it's my duty and the community of the people behind me to help build the industry to meet the need of these people, who are working very hard and pursuing opportunities that they were born and trained here to do. So strongly support this bill and happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify?
Aloha chairs, vice chairs, and esteemed members of the committee. My name is David Holt. I'm the program director at Blue Startups. Mahalo for the opportunity to provide testimony in support of SB 2907. Blue Startups was founded to help diversify Hawaii's economy by building stronger technology sector. For more than a decade, we have supported entrepreneurs building companies in Hawaii. Blue Startups is launching an ocean tech program this summer designed to position Hawaii as a global test bed for ocean innovation aligned with HTDC's ocean technology priority. Hawaii's ocean and coastal strengths have the power to touch energy, food systems, transportation, climate resilience, research, and tourism. We strongly support the committee to pass SB 2907 and advance it through the remaining referrals to further the work that we have done for the last 14 years. Mahalo.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, any questions? DBED, gone. Trung. So Trung, it's been 52 years since DBED published a landmark report, Hawaii and the Sea in 1974, that was designed to guide the state's marine policy and economic development. That report included many of the economic and policy issues we're still addressing today. The first Office of Marine Affairs was established in 1974 and reported to the governor. DBED published a report that year, Hawaii and the Sea, which contained similar objectives relating to ocean-related economic development. So this bill proposes is not new. What have we done in the past 52 years since that report was published?
Thank you so much for that question. Do we have? Yes. So let me call up Sonia Romero, Economic Development Specialist. I'm new to this, but I am learning that it's great to have answers prepared to certain questions, and I think we do have an answer for something like this.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question, Senator DeCoit. So from my understanding, there was about $5 million that was invested into that Office of Marine Affairs Commission, and from that, about $7.2 million of federal funding that was able to come into the state. So we do see that there was positive economic impacts for Hawaii with this Office of Marine Affairs. Ultimately, that position was winded down, but what we do see is across Hawaii over the past 50 years, our blue economy has grown by about 23%. It does make up 100,000 jobs, which is about 16% of all jobs locally, and it makes up about $10 billion. I think another really interesting point to bring out is what's happening in other states that have created this cluster model. So in Washington, for example, they created their cluster in 2018. Their blue economy has been able to grow by about 40%, double about what Hawaii has been able to achieve. And so ultimately, we really think that it's important to reinvigorate this Marine Affairs Commission in order to achieve similar levels of growth.
So in your opinion, what do you think is the going rate for that position?
So I think my understanding is that a position like that will probably take around $100,000 to $200,000. to adequately pay someone to do a task like that.
I think you're lowballing that. I think with the amount of, I mean, in 2030, I'm assuming this, we're talking trillions for the blue economy. So I
Right.
mean, I think you take a lowball approach. I think one position like this should be a lot higher, don't you?
Well,
To attract the type of.
yeah, and I
We're doing
appreciate
it
those comments, Senator
Okay.
DeCoite. And ultimately, I think to your point, in a lot of these other cities, these offices have not just one position, but staffs of 5 to 10 people. And so I think we're taking, you're right, a relatively conservative approach to start, just to get our feet settled, to have a plan with one position, and then ideally scale from there.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else with questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on. Next up, Senate Bill 2595 relating to Agribusiness Development Corporation. First up, Wendy Gady for Agribusiness Development Corporation.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. I'm Wendy Gady, the Agribusiness Development Corp Executive Director, and we stand in support of this measure. But my comments that I'm going to make are probably very aware for anybody in ag, but an acre is not an acre is not an acre. So depending on if you're using ag acres for pastoral use, it has one rate. If you're using it for diversified crop, it has another. So I just wanted to be clear that an acre is not an acre is not an acre. And I'm here if you have any questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Wendy. Next up, Craig Nakamoto with HCDA.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees. Well, I want to just provide testimony and support with comments, maybe just provide some input. Our involvement is related to the Central Oahu Agriculture and Food Hub located in Whitmore Village. We are assisting ADC as a project manager to develop the food hub. In that regard, I understand the intent of the bill to require ADC to charge fair market rents, but I would suggest that sometimes rents are sensitive on the use being put. So for example, at the food hub, one of the uses being suggested is a workforce housing building, workforce housing. Depending on the AMI target for that workforce housing, the rent charged on the ground lease may have to be less than fair market value to make that affordable housing, workforce housing pencil out. In another example that I stated, if the food hub was going to put on like a kind of a fair or some kind of a vendor event for a one-day thing, maybe that would justify a lower than market lease rent in exchange for the non-monetary gains that could be received by that kind of event, like publicity, marketing, promoting agriculture and the like. In other words, sometimes a flexible leasing policy might be better than a more rigid leasing policy. Thank you, chairs, vice chairs.
Thank you. Next up, Hunter Hevlin with Hawaii Farmers Union.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, chairs, vice chairs. Hunter Evelyn on behalf of Hawaii Farmers Union. We offered some written comments on this measure, but highlight that when the Agribusiness Development Corporation was formed in 1994, its intent was to support both local markets and export markets. In the intervening decades, we've finally seen a swath of agricultural land be collected for diverse agricultural use ideally. My concern with this measure as written is that it proposes to slant the various subsidies that we have from the state for agriculture towards a certain scale of production. Only those who are at a certain scale can reasonably produce at the reimbursement rates that the Department of Education receives from the United States Department of Agriculture for our school food programs. So if you are at a scale of that production, this now proposes to further enable you to access agricultural lands from the state. And unfortunately, Unfortunately, part of what I see arranging in a lot of this effort to increase our local productivity and increase our procurement is the removal of access to a lot of these forms of subsidy, be they land, be they processing, maybe even market access as a result of that processing, or the orientation of some of our procurement processes over the past, say, 10 years of effort in Ainapono. So while we recognize the state, is trying to balance its books, and we want to support a variety of agricultural operations at different scales, I believe that this measure, as currently written, could unfortunately slant and further limit smallholders from accessing the form of subsidy that comes in state land leases. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Next up, Glenn Kagamita, in support. Hawai'i Farm Bureau.
Thank you, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawai'i Farm Bureau. You have a written testimony providing comments. I just want to make sure you did know that I am Brian Miyamoto, Hawai'i Farm Bureau. People have been saying Hunter and I wearing the same clothes. He's the one with the mustache with the same physique. We echo many of the concerns of the Farmers Union. It's well known that the Hawai'i Farm Bureau supports farm to school, supports regional kitchen, supports FPINs. However, not all producers actually participate in farm to school, participate in FPINs. Ag is very diverse, as you heard. Nursery, coffee, hemp, maybe even biofuels, camelina may not participate, and they would be at a disadvantage and actually have higher than market value lease rates. We agree with incentivizing producers so that we can target the DOE purchasing, institutional purchasing, FPINs, absolutely. But this may be a penalty to those who actually are producing the food for Hawaii, producing the food and value added for exports and other sectors of the economy, even the blue economy that we heard. Maybe some of those projects, right, that ADC is looking at may not produce ag products that actually go into the DOE or into value added. We hope a lot of them do, but they may not. So we support these programs, but we're just concerned that this may not be fair for some of the other producers who maybe aren't participating in that. So find an incentive. We can't tell the farmer what to grow, we can incentivize them what to grow. And let's find a positive incentive that we can offer so that we can have those supplies into these programs. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, any questions? Quick question for ADC, please. Wendy, at what rates do you currently lease, license, or rent your properties?
So we had done a market appraisal in the last year, and in the past, it was basically determined by the board. And based on that, different islands have different rates. So in the case of where our current tenants are at on Oahu, is somewhere in the neighborhood of $150 to $450 per acre per year. And the appraisal rate came in at $1,800. And on the case of Kauai, current rates, and I'm talking more about diversified because pastoral is definitely cheaper. It's in the range of $350 per acre per year, and that is what the appraisal came in, but our market rates our current leases are between 150 and 250. But some of the licenses that we have are very long-term, so we may be in year 5 out of a 35-year license. So there's very few opportunities to reopen or adjust that rate. So it really would move more towards liens.
Do you currently have an employee on the board who's qualified to appraise properties?
No, we actually go out to bid for that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Wait, questions? Seeing none, short recess. Thank you. Thank you, members. We are decision-making on today's agenda. the 301 agenda with EDT and AEN. First up, Senate Bill 2374. We are going to pass, actually, sorry, I'm going to defer decision-making on this measure. I want to wait to get the information back from DBED till to next week, Tuesday at 1, February 17th, in room 229. Sorry.
It's okay. And for AEN, we'll meet on February 18th at 3:05 in room 224.
Thank you. Next up, Senate Bill 2907 relating to marine affairs. We will be moving this bill out. The bill states that the blue economy is projected to double to an estimated $3 trillion by 2030. Hawaii should be leading the nation in developing our blue economy. Toward this end, I would like to pass this bill with an SD1 by having the salary of the Marine Affairs Coordinator set by the governor on page 10, and on page 19, placing the Office of Marine Affairs in the governor's office, blanking out the $150,000 appropriation, having the sum appropriated expended by the governor's office, and on page 13, inserting December 1st as the date to submit an annual report and defecting the date to July 1st, 2050. Note in the committee report that the Marine Affairs Coordinator position shall be paid no less than the Dean of the School of Ocean and Earth Science and Technology, and that this position may be combined with the position at the University of Hawaii and jointly funded by both the university and the governor's office. Members, any questions? Any discussion? Sorry. Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, Chair votes aye.
I vote yes. Senator Fukunaga, excuse. Senator Kim, excuse. Senator Favela.
Aye.
Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
Same recommendation for AEN. Any discussion? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair.
On Senate Bill 2907, passing with amendments, Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoy.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes.
Aye.
Senator Awa. Aye. Chair, you have 5 in favor. Motion adopted.
Thank you, members.
Next bill, Senate Bill 2595 relating to Agribusiness Development Corporation. We're going to be passing this with an SD1 by amending the language on page 2 to correct a drafting error that would repeal the ADC's power to sell any real personal or mixed property acquired, since this was not the bill's intent, and defecting the date to July 1st, 2050. Any discussion? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please. Chair goes aye.
I vote yes. Senator Fukunaga, excuse. Senator Kim, excuse. Senator Favela.
Aye.
Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
Same recommendation for AEN. Any discussion? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair.
On Senate Bill 2595, passing with amendments of the 5 members present, is anyone voting with reservations? Any no votes? Chair, you have 5 in favor. Motion adopted.
Thank you, members.
Thank you. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
All right, gaveling in the 305 agenda with hearing with AEN and CPN for decision-making. So on this measure here, we're conferring. The chairs have been conferring on this, and we're going to roll the decision-making on this until Wednesday, February 18th at 3:05 PM in room 224. We'll adjourn to 3:05. All right, gaveling in the AEN hearing at 3:10, and we have, first up, we have SB 3162, relating to strategic food reserves, establishes the strategic food reserve program within the DAB, establishes purchasing requirements for crops stored at a strategic food reserve, establish a Strategic Food Reserves Advisory Committee, et cetera. We'll start off with Dab. To testify, we have Dab here. They're in support. Next, we have Travis Moon with, or Christopher Leon with the Attorney General's office.
Good afternoon, Deputy Attorney General Travis Moon. We provided our written comments, and I'm here if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bill. You have a written testimony of supporting the intent. I want to start off saying we actually love this program. We love the concept, what it's trying to accomplish. The implementation is something that we may be a little bit concerned with. We love that it has nexus and synergy with the regional kitchens, HPP machine, ADC infrastructure, but again, I think we're talking about aggregation, cold storage, inventory rotation, food safety compliance, transportation, logistics, and workforce capacity. Very complex. We actually have some that already do that, some of our distributors, not suggesting work with the distributors, but the scope of what this is asking for is huge. It's a great idea. I think DOD's talking about it. I think Chad Buck HFA is talking about it. The Senate, we've heard them talking about almost emergency preparedness using local foods. But this is not only non-perishable, but we understand there's also fresh crops that might be part of it. The whole idea is really great, rotating it in and out for emergencies and then going to the food banks, the food pantries, Meals on Wheels. If this continues to move forward, we do suggest that given the inclusion of locally produced proteins, maybe one of the committee members could be someone from the livestock industry. We didn't see that included. We do see that there is farmers and farmer organizations, but also, again, talking about blue economy, if aquaculture is going to be part of it, maybe somebody for aquaculture industry. We don't like large working groups or committees, but again, make sure that we have complete representation for something like this, which we really support. This is a great idea, and we commend you, Chair, as an introducer. I really like this idea. I think it's something that we need to really focus on. So thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony.
Thank you, Brian. And I just want to remind you that we have a 5 o'clock hard deadline, and there's 11 measures on this agenda. So if you would like to stand on your testimony, that would be fine. Next is Hawaii Farmers Union. Hunter Evelyn.
Wish I could abide that request. Hunter Heflin on behalf of Hawaii Farmers Union. As we provided written testimony, we support the intent, but offer a number of comments. This proposes the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity take on a whole new stream of work, which is warehouse management. With a personal background working at the nexus of food systems, disasters, and planning, this is really a large-scale planning effort, and a proposed method, alternative to the Department of Agriculture administering this, would be to pursue vendor-managed inventory. This effectively draws upon what has happened in these islands already during the mid-century, say, generation or so of dock strikes. Distributors and others took it upon themselves to store excess capacity and carried that cost off to consumers. We can imagine a much better functioning system to accomplish numerous goals outlined in this by working with the existing network of warehouses, rotational inventory management, and otherwise that is happening day in and day out through our food hubs, through our grocers, and through our distributors. So while we support the intent, I think the current proposed mechanism, and particularly the departments that would be saddled with coordinating this effort, needs some serious reconsideration. Happy to answer any questions, though I imagine that won't be the case based off the timeline. So I'll wrap early. Thank you.
Thank you, Hunter. And we have Lauren Zergel from the Hawaii Food Industry Association on Zoom.
Oh, good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My video will not start for some reason. I'm Alexis Chapman for Hawaii Food Industry Association. Oh, there I am. Hello. So we are in support of this measure, but to echo and perhaps expand on some of the sentiments of the previous testifiers, we did include in our testimony that obviously working with the local producers, manufacturers, suppliers, distributors, and retailers before a disaster strikes is an essential component of statewide preparedness. And as part of this program, or maybe in lieu of some of the current components of this program, we would absolutely suggest creating memorandums of understanding with the existing network. So with the existing food suppliers, distributors, storage areas, and retailers who are already expected to and have already proven an ability to respond in case of a disaster. So that's it for us, but happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. Next is Nicole Galassi from Hawaii Cattlemen's Council on Zoom.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Nicole Galassi on behalf of the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council. We submitted testimony in support because this is a proactive bill to make sure we have food available for our local families. This is something Hawaii Cattlemen's Council is prioritizing this year, and Hawaii's Paniolo look forward to participating in this to streamline the process of getting high quality protein to the community. And we'd also welcome being included in the advisory committee as the supply chain of beef differs from other crops. Mahalo.
Thank you, Nicole. Next is Tam Hunt from Think Big LLC.
Not on Zoom, Chair.
Not on Zoom. Okay. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Are there any questions, members? Okay, moving on to SB 3256, establishing the Hawaii Ag Transportation Assistance Program to consist of a reimbursement program and a grant program within DAB to assist certain farmers and livestock producers with transportation costs for ag products, input supplies, and product production and distribution of ag commodities. Okay. 256. First up is DAB. They're not here. Okay, and support. Hawaii Farm Bureau, Brian?
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Farm Bureau will stand on its written testimony in support.
Thank you. Hunter Hevela, Hawaii Farmers Union?
Chair, Hawaii Farmers Union stands on its written testimony in support and seeking a couple of definitions.
Thank you. Lauren Zerbil from Hawaii Food Industry Association on Zoom.
Good afternoon again. HFI stands on our testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Nicole Galassi from Cattlemen's Council on Zoom.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair. Hawaii Cattlemen's Council stands on our testimony in support, but I'll add that the federal RTCP program, which the bill refers to, many ranchers are able to use this, but it's meant to cover 25% of transportation costs. Because of the cap that's there, a lot of times some of the ranchers only get about 1% of the cost covered. So this state program would complement the federal program, and there is a need for it. Mahalo.
Thank you, Nicole. Anyone else wishing to testify on 3256? Seeing none, members, any questions? All right, moving on to SB 2741. Phases in exemptions of locally produced food from the general excise tax. First up is DAB. Not here still, and they're in support. May Mui Haley Callahan, Deputy Attorney General.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Haley Callahan. I'm the Deputy Attorney General for the AG's office. We provided our testimony on the Commerce Clause issue. Thank you for this opportunity to provide testimony. I'll be happy to answer any question that your committee may have on this measure.
Thank you. Brian Miyamoto from Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Farm Bureau will stand on its written testimony in support.
Thank you, Brian. Hunter Heveland, Hawaii Farmers Union.
Thank you, Chair. Farmers Union offers testimony in support of the intent of this measure. However, similar to the previous oral testimony provided, we highlight that there are constitutional concerns. Over the past handful of years, we've put forward a number of measures that would address general excise tax and approaches that would support our agricultural industry without confronting or without facing the same issues of constitutional concern. primary mechanism that I would recommend is that when the general excise tax was implemented, studies were done at the time that reviewed papaya, egg, and other agricultural industries that found that that tax pyramiding would indeed be the outcome. 37 other states exempt from sales tax machinery, feed, fuel, agricultural chemicals, seed, etc. Our state taxes all of those things multiple stops along the way to the farm gate. So we can simultaneously reduce farm costs and level the playing field that we have with every imported product coming from the mainland United States. And simultaneously avoid some of the Commerce Clause opportunities. I've referenced a couple of bills that related to how that was done prior. I'm happy to answer any questions. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Hunter. Next is Hawaii Food Industry Association. Alexis?
Good afternoon again, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. We are in support of this measure. We would also, again, to avoid the Interstate Commerce Clause issue, support it expanding to include all food to be exempted from the GET, and there's a few vehicles for that currently moving. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Alexis. Next is Nicole Galassi from the Cattlemen's Council.
Thank you. The Hawaii Cattlemen's Council stands on our testimony in support.
Thank you, Nicole. Next is Tom Yamachika from the Tax Foundation of Hawaii.
Not on Zoom, Chair.
Okay, anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Please come forward, state your name.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. Garrison Kurth, Department of Taxation. I apologize, our testimony did not get into you, but I believe you might have a copy. Quickly, just to summarize, there's just two main points we wanted to make. We've certainly will work with DAB to facilitate making this work, and we would defer to them as far as their expertise on certification of producers and qualifying products. Other than that, there's effective dates in the bill, July 1st. We just asked that they be moved forward to January 1st of the following year to give time for all the updates that we needed to administer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Members, any questions?
Yeah. Dab. Thank you, Chair. Dab. Okay.
Dab's not here.
So Chair, just wanting you to know, I actually had questions for the prior bills, but you know, with Dab missing, it's hard to have those questions answered. So just for the record, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to SB 2805, establishing a non-refundable income tax credit to incentivize significant investment in ag production and support the expansion of ag crops that take longer to become productive. ADC, Wendy Gady.
Chair, ADC stands in written support.
Thank you, Wendy. Dab, still not here. You're in support. Hawaii Farm Bureau, Brian.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Farm Bureau will stand on testimony written support.
Thank you, Brian. Hunter Hevelin, Hawaii Farmer Union.
Thank you, Chair. Farmers Union stands on its written testimony in support, again expressing concern and a slant towards larger, well-capitalized operations.
Thank you. Tom Yamachika from the Tax Foundation on Zoom.
Not on Zoom, Chair.
Okay, and anyone else wishing to testify on SB 2805? Please come forward.
Lyndon Piper, Department of Taxation. I apologize that we did not get written testimony to the committee. I do have 3 comments on this bill. The first one would be as to subject matter expertise and the cap. The Department of Taxation lacks the subject matter expertise to oversee this, and we are unable to oversee caps. We would ask that a certifying department with substantive expertise certify and oversee the cap. We do have a concern with regard to the effective date. We would recommend the bill be amended to apply to taxable years beginning after December 31st of 2026 to allow time to make implementation for instruction changes and promulgate rules. And then finally, as far as the carry forward, would ask that we include a sunset provision for the carry forward, provided that no credit may be carried forward for more than 5 years after the initial claim for credit is made under this section, simply to ensure that these carry forward credits are not dangling out there indefinitely. Thank you, and I'll be available for questions.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Members, any questions?
The person not here, that's okay.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to SB 2704, establishing within DAB a temporary subsistence plus gardening pilot program. And first up is DAB, absent. Hawaii Farm Bureau, Brian Miyamoto.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Farm Bureau will establish written testimony in support.
Thank you, Brian. Hunter Hevelin from Hawaii Farmers Union.
Farmers Union stands on its testimony in support.
Thank you. Mason, don't have a last name?
That's Mason.
That's you. Come on forward.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Mason, and it's a privilege to be in front of you guys. Before I start, just wanted to say mahalo to Mike Gabbard and Cedric Gates and the entire committee for their support and introduction for this bill, SB 2704. So when I met Uncle Danny, this was about a year and a half ago, and the first time I harvested and cooked my own food, something shifted. It was like a cup of coffee. Something kind of woke up, and I felt nourished in a way that I hadn't really felt before. And since then, we've actually created a little community, and we've been using social media to outreach and get people activated and growing their own food. We actually have an active prototype of this bill running already, and it's kind of crazy. If you were to show up to one of these work days, you'd see people who have never even been in a food system before, and they're here, they're active, they want to participate, but we need access. And so what this is telling me sort of is that the time is right for this bill, and people want this, and what we're doing here isn't anything new, right? Like this idea of communities centered around growing food, it's been around longer than all this. It's very human. It's a human thing. So we're working with Cedric on the draft, and we would just ask your consideration, and we appreciate you guys giving us this opportunity. Much mahalo. If you guys have any questions, we're in the back.
Thank you very much.
Aloha.
Anyone else wishing to testify on SB 2704, please come forward.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mahalo, Chair and committee members. My name is Danny Bishop. I've been involved in trying to address the food insecurity issue since I started having children. My oldest son is almost 50 years old. I've been involved with the Onipa'a movement to bring Lo'ikalo back to the forefront of our food environment here, and also the Taro Purity Security Task Force was involved with that. So I did write in written testimony. I'd like to stand on that testimony, but also add and reaffirm something that Mason, the previous testifier, said. There is a huge need for younger people to get re-involved with their environment, a healthy food systems, and a healthy environment to raise their families in. So that's one of the main goals of this concept, is that people, the focus is not necessarily on growing food as a commodity, as a cash value, but the focus is to bring healthy food back into their diets and still being able to create an economic surplus within their parcel so that they can add to the economy, not just with food, but with cash. Anyway, mahalo again, thank you all. I do have some late testimony. I have if I can submit.
You just leave it right here?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take care of it. Thank you very much,
Take care.
Danny.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
folks. Very much. Aloha.
Anyone else? Members, any questions? Moving on, SB 2174 relating to ag. Authorizes DAB to declare an emergency quarantine when it has been reasonably determined that there is a threat to the environment and the state. Authorizes the department to halt operations related to or within the affected area for 96 hours, subject to extension by vote of the Board of Ag and Biosecurity. And by the way, on the SB 27-4, the measure we just heard, there were 26 Testifiers in support, 0 opposed, and 0 comments. So on 2174, has Dab arrived yet? No? Okay, they are in support. Patrick Shee.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. The Department of Land and Natural Resources and the Hawaii Invasive Species Council stand in strong support of this bill. We believe that it's important for there to be a means to act quickly to contain threats of invasive species, and this would allow for that. We support also the expanded authority of the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity to regulate transportation of goods within the state, as well as its ability to quarantine a business or an area known or suspected to harbor an invasive species infestation. So early containment of invasive species can significantly reduce the time, effort, and cost required in order to resolve such threats. And we, again, strongly support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Cedric, we'll take Dab now. We're on SB 2174.
Aloha, Chair. Cedric Gates here on behalf of DAB. DAB stands on its written testimony offering support to this measure. We're here for any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you, Cedric. Stephanie Easley from CGAPS.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Stephanie Easley with the Coordinating Group on Alien Pest Species. We have submitted written testimony in support of this bill. It provides a great tool to allow the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity to get ahead of an infestation once it is detected. We provided 2 amendments for your consideration. One is we really love the language that's proposed being added to section 141-3 that includes animal disease and any invasive species. We suggest mirroring that in the amendment to 150A-8. For instance, the 2-line spittlebug was not on any list of pests until last year. The next nightmare pest that comes to our shores might not be on a list. So having that language mirrored would allow this authority to apply in that situation. And then also just suggest expanding the 4-day time period for logistical reasons for the Board of Ag and Biosecurity to take a vote. I'm here if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Farm Bureau got up for this testimony support.
Hunter Hevelin from Hawaii Farmers Union.
Farmers Union stands on its written testimony offering comments.
Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Members, any questions?
Question, Chair.
Senator
Dab? While you're walking up, since this is an emergency quarantine, is it feasible to rely on the Board of Agriculture to convene a meeting to enable the department to extend the quarantine more than 96 hours? And then shouldn't the department be able to make this determination without waiting at 96 hours?
Jonathan Ho, Plant Quarantine Branch Manager. So, yeah, so with regards to obviously the 92 issues with notice for the emergency meeting, depending on the pest and the level of infestation, we believe that making a determination to expand or not could be done in that time frame, because you would get an initial detection. Depending on the pest, you would do the quarantine survey to determine extent, and then you would then have to make the decision, because obviously if you find it on multiple properties, things like that, and either go bigger, go smaller, or or you'd have to change.
So you wouldn't need board approval, you could just make the determination right there?
So yes, I believe that you could be able to do it, again, depending on the pest and the ability to find it.
What pest would cause you not to make a determination?
So I don't think it's necessarily the pest. I think so, like, so for example, say we found.
Yeah, but you just said depending on the pest.
Sorry, so the pest and the level of infestation. So for example, we'll use CRB and Molokai, okay? So somebody reports CRB on Molokai, we would come out, to move it forward, you would quarantine that particular property, you would start doing surveys. If you started finding surveys, you did the surveys and you found it in the entire property, it's very likely it's outside the property. And then, right, you're going to just go out, and then if you find it everywhere, obviously quarantining individual properties doesn't make sense. So you're going to have to do a different set of management, right? But if it's just that single property, right, we're going to be able to know that. You can implement quarantine measures for that. Like, for example, it's in a single pile, right? We could come in, do emergency procurement, treat immediately.
So Jonathan, if that pile is, I don't know, 10 by 10 by 10.
Yes.
That pile is expanded out to the 10 by 10.
Yes.
What's the difference between that and then the properties that are connected to each other? Because basically, if the 10 by 10 full, it expanded out.
Correct. And again, I think it goes back to like what you find, right? If you find just two or
CRB.
three.
So
Well,
CRB.
no, but again, like I think like if you open it up and you're finding hundreds of grubs, all life stages, eggs, right? There's a very difference as opposed to finding first instar only.
So I just
'Cause
gonna say,
that means they
so I
haven't
just gonna say
spread
this, if that 10 by 10 by 10 is infested with CRB, I'm sure you're gonna find the larvae or whatever else is gonna be there. So my question is, would that justify going to the board for approval, or can your department just say, we're just gonna knock this thing
No,
out?
yeah, we would just keep going. We wouldn't go to the board. We would deal with it. I don't believe that you would go back to the board. It takes away time from doing the eradication.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
All right. Moving on to SB 2885, beginning January 1st, 2027, establishes mandatory handling and storage rules for commercial and residential coconut rhinoceros beetle host material to reduce the spread of CRB within infested zones and to prevent spread into non-infested zones. First up is Dab.
Thank you, Chair. Dab stands on its written testimony in support of this measure. For any questions?
Thank you. Next is Stephanie Easley with CGAPS.
Oh, goodness, sorry. Aloha, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Stephanie Easley with the Coordinating Group on Alien Pest Species. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. We are grateful to the introducer of this bill, and we support this bill. Any actions to control CRB are desperately needed as it continues to spread across the islands, and I'm here if you have any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you. Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Chair of the Hawaii Farm Bill stands on its written testimony in support.
Hunter Haviland, Hawaii Farmers Union.
Chair, Hawaii Farmers Union stands up to the testimony.
And Joy Yuleishi Casado on Zoom.
Aloha, Chair Gabbard and Vice Chair Richards. I stand on my testimony in strong support with comment only that the most important aspect of this bill is that it's grounded in science, targeting the most effective method to manage coconut rhinoceros beetle, and that Hawaii is in dire need of a cohesive and comprehensive management plan. The current patchwork efforts have vulnerabilities that leave us susceptible to CRB spread and persistence. Mahalo.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify on SB 2885? Patrick?
Patrick Chi, Department of Land and Natural Resources and the Hawaii Invasive Species Council. Hopefully you got our written testimony. We do have some comments. We believe that the management methods that are mentioned within this measure could and should be expanded. We suggest that the bill looks at the crbhawaii.org's list of treatments for breeding material in order to potentially add more to that. The department also supports the policies that CRB management across both residential and commercial operations, as well as we would advise that within, I think it was paragraph H on page 9 of this measure, it mentions the need for a hotline, but already the 643pest.org website, as well as 643pest, the hotline phone number, could potentially serve as that means in order to report the coconut rhinoceros beetle. Thank you for the
Patrick,
opportunity.
we did not receive your testimony, so if you could resubmit it, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, we will.
2885. Thank you. Members, any questions? Moving on to SB 3012, requiring as a condition of entry into the state, documentation verifying that any dog or cat imported into the state has been surgically sterilized, subject to certain exemptions. First up is Patrick Chi.
This is for
3012.
Thank you again, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. This bill is important that we are attempting to try and prevent the spread of unsterilized animals in the state. We believe that this importation bill would encourage people to have their animals to be spayed or neutered before they come to the state. We also believe that we also note that there have been, in fiscal year 2024, there were over 20,000 animals that were imported into the state, and this is a significant amount of animals that could potentially be essentially given a chance to be sterilized before they come to the state and potentially pose an issue when they get here. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Patrick. Deb?
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Cedric Gates here on behalf of DAB. DAB submitted testimony in opposition, but we'd like to change our testimony to comments. We support the intent, but we have concerns with the challenges of implementing this. We have since been in conversations with the author of the companion of this measure to try to find workarounds and compromises to this measure so that it can be implementable on our end. But we're here for any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you, Cedric. Len Muramaro from Pacific Pet Alliance.
Good afternoon, Senators. The Pacific Pet Alliance.
Could you state your name, please?
My name is Lynn Muramaru. I represent the Pacific Pet Alliance, and we are in strong opposition to this bill. We certainly understand the intent of the bill, with the free roaming animals and the pet overpopulation. However, we find that there is a lot of question as far as the hard data that's been submitted. Like Mr. Chi's testimony said that there were over 20,000 dogs brought in. I wonder, do you know how many of those dogs were already sterilized ahead of time? Do you know how many of those dogs are connected with the military TSA? For example, I exhibit my dog on the mainland. So I may travel several times to go to the mainland to exhibit my dog. So if my dog went to the mainland 6 times last year, is he counted 6 times in that 20,000? And there are quite a number of exhibitors from Hawaii that go to big dog shows in Orlando, Westminster, and so forth. And we take our animals with us, and every time we leave the state, we come back. So, if 50 dogs leave, that live here, are they counted again? There are just so many questions. And then the other part of this bill that we strongly object to is that as far as a breeder registry goes, we're asked, the bill asks us to agree to something where it says that fees and rules are to be determined later. So you want us to agree to something that we don't know what we're agreeing to.
Your time's up. Thank you very much for your
Thank you
testimony.
very much.
Thanks, Lynn. Next is Bob Brilling-Smith with the American Kennel Club on Zoom.
Not on Zoom, Chair.
Thank you. Aisha Aoki on Zoom with the Cat Fanciers of Hawaii Cat Club.
Aloha committee members, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, aloha for allowing me to be here to testify. My name is Aisha Aoki. I am the Vice President of the Cat Fanciers of Hawaii Club, further known as CFH throughout my testimony. So we, the breeders and pet owners of the CFH, strongly oppose this bill. CFH is a small, very small local nonprofit cat club that is part of a larger international cat fanciers association. We are breed preservationists, passionate about preserving the healthy lines of breed-specific cats. Many cats that we work with are quote unquote rare, with very few breeders available worldwide, and take the commitment of special people to carry on these healthy lines and genetics. People breeders who are not in it for the money, as many responsible breeders do not make money from this hobby. We care about carrying on specific cat breeds and lines, no matter what it costs. With this, breeders expend costs for genetic and health testing. We expend large veterinary costs for health maintenance, top-tier food brands and supplements, as well as the importation of new breeding stock to ensure genetic diversity, among other things. Within CFH, we only have about 10 breeders who only put out a few litters a year. We have cat shows, which make up intact cats only make up about 22 cats, with the majority of cats being mainly fixed pets, which account for approximately 45 of those numbers. So we ask, how do having pedigreed cats in Hawaii contribute to this overpopulation? For me specifically as a breeder, my cats go out fixed, non-negotiable under my contracts. So in summation, we do not support a breed registry. Realistically, responsible breeders.
Your time is up. Thank you for your testimony. Mahalo.
Thank you.
And a reminder, we still have a hard stop at 5, and so I would ask the testifiers if you were to stand on your written testimony unless you have something different that you want to submit. And I'm also going to limit the testimony to 1 minute since we are running out of time quickly here. Kathy Gogel.
Not on Zoom, Chair.
Not there, is that right?
Yep.
And support. Stephanie Kendrick from Hawaiian Humane Society on Zoom. Oh,
Also not on Zoom, Chair.
okay, she's here.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, Senator Rhodes, Stephanie Kendrick with the Hawaiian Humane Society. I will keep this short. You have our testimony. I just want to point out that this bill does not prevent anyone from bringing an animal into the state and preserving the breeds that they want to preserve. All they need to do if they want to bring in an intact animal is declare that, so that we have some information on file about who has intact dogs and cats in our state. Given our problem with pet overpopulation and the free roaming cat population, I do not think that's too much to ask for someone who wants to bring an intact pet into Hawaii. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Stephanie. Next is Grant Sizemore from American Bird Conservancy. Grant?
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Grant Sizemore, American Bird Conservancy. We stand in support of Senate Bill 3012. I really want to echo what Ms. Kendrick just said. There is an exemption already in the bill for an animal that's in the state fewer than 90 days and for registered breeders. But we believe that this bill would go a long way to preventing additional reproduction unintended reproduction of dogs and cats. And for us, cats are a big issue because of the potential harms they have for Hawaii's native birds and marine mammals. Cat sterilization is widely supported, and we ask that you please support this bill. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. And next we have Renee Roquero. Opposed. Elise Madsen on Zoom.
Not on Zoom, Chair.
Jenna Oda on Zoom.
Also not on Zoom, Chair.
Teresa Parsons on Zoom.
Also not on Zoom, Chair.
Corrine McCreary on Zoom.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to testify. My name is Karen McCreary. I am a resident and constituent of Senate District 13, and I am in strong opposition of SB 3012. I do stand on my written testimony. I also just wanted to include a little bit of personal background. I am currently in the process of importing an Ozawack puppy from an ethical breeder in Washington State, for which I was chosen after a lengthy selective process to serve as a breed ambassador. I'm exactly the type of person that this bill would affect. There are fewer than 500 in the United States and fewer than 3,000 worldwide. The current verbiage of the bill does not carve out exemptions for someone like me who is not a breeder. I am simply a dog fancier. I am bringing the dog in for the purposes of showing and sports, as well as a companion animal. I have no intentions of breeding the dog. I'm actually under legally binding contract. Most ethical breeders do require contract obligations that state that the dog must stay intact for a minimum of 2 years.
Doreen, thank you. Your time is up. Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next is Anela Joseph
Not on Zoom, Chair.
and Roseanne Michelle.
Also not on Zoom, Chair.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Please come forward.
Good afternoon. Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Emma Shelley. As a resident of Hawaii, having grown up on Oahu and now working in conservation, I stand in strong support of this bill. I think we all know that free-roaming feral and pet cats pose a documented threat to our native wildlife and also our human communities. Each year, cats prey on countless endangered native birds, and they transmit toxoplasmosis to monk seals, nene, and humans. SB 3012 promotes responsible cat ownership and safeguards our own native ecosystems and communities by reducing the number of unsterilized animals imported into the state. It is consistent with animal welfare, public health, and conservation goals. Mahalo.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please come forward. State your name. You have 1 minute.
Angela Melody Young, CARE, wishing to comment. I think if there could be an amendment to help the people involved in this discussion talk to each other, then it can help with facilitating the breeding of cats and also the effects upon Hawaii. So, there are ragdolls that are very desirable, and people actively want to chase ragdoll cats because they have desirable traits, such as being ideally like a family pet and requires minimal grooming. And then there's Bengals, which are illegal in Hawaii, but they're desirable because they're very wild. And so if the committee want to learn more about breeding, and not just like the kittens that you can pick up at the park, but like the special breeds, I think you can start a work group about it. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, let's see. Yeah. Oh. Okay, great. Thank you, Carol. Good news, we get to finish. Wonderful. Members, any questions on 3012?
Yeah, I do.
Senator Richards.
Patrick?
Yes, Senator.
You made a comment that 20,000 animals were imported last year.
Yes, that's the statistics that comes from the Department of Agriculture for cats and dogs that come into the state. That is an exceptional number, and it has been increasing. It was somewhere in the neighborhood of 15,000 the year before, but unfortunately, we don't know why the numbers are going up, but we just know that is being reported by the Department of Agriculture. So.
Okay. when I do the math on that, that's 1,600 a month, 400 a week.
Yeah, that's what was in their report. So we're just,
Is anybody from Department of Ag can answer that? Ike?
Isaac Mehta, Department of Agriculture Animal Industry Division. Yeah, it's actually last year, I think, was probably closer to 23,000. Pretty high. Used to be back in the day, a long time ago, before we had the airport release program. It was, back around 4,700 animals. So it's been increasing. Slight dip during COVID and then increasing about that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Maeda. Humane Society? Oh, sorry, Chair. Follow-up question, thank you. Okay, I don't disagree with the concern for overpopulation. No one's been more interested in sterilization. I don't agree exactly with your statement that there's a carve-out, because I'm thinking about like stock dogs that are brought in specifically for breeding more stock dogs, but they're not breeders. And so I can understand the intent, and I fully support the intent, and for all the reasons that are articulated, but there is a demographic, some of the cat fanciers, I completely agree with that. And so given that statement, how would you suggest, in your thoughts, as far as managing that? Because these are not breeders, and expecting them to register as a breeder, that's not reasonable.
Thank you for the opportunity to clarify, Senator Richards. We actually offered some amendments in our testimony that I sort of skipped over because I wanted to respect the committee's time.
And we appreciate that.
Yeah, but they do, it takes away the breeder registry and simply asks for a declaration of possessing an intact animal with some information about where the animal is going to be housed, the breed, and that sort of thing. So it addresses the valid point that not all of the people who are bringing in intact animals are breeders. We still want to know who has those animals and where they are.
Okay, and, listening to the cat fanciers, I'm very well aware, and I have colleagues and friends that do exactly what's been described. Transport in, and they're not breeders, they're just fanciers.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you, Chair.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right, moving on to SB 2478. By the way, on 3012, there were 43 in support, 88 opposed, and no comments. So moving on, 2478 proposes an amendment to Article 1 of the Hawaii State Constitution to recognize and protect the inherent and inalienable right of all people to clean water and air, a healthful environment and climate, and healthy native ecosystems and beaches. We have Wade Hargrove from the Deputy Attorney General on Zoom.
Not on Zoom, Chair.
Thank you. Dave Mullenix, Greenpeace Hawaii on Zoom.
Chair.
Oh, please.
Good afternoon, Chair Gabbard, Vice Chair Richards. My name is Wade Hargrove. I'm a Deputy Attorney General for the Attorney General's Office. Out of respect for the request by the Chair that we stand when can, I will, but I'm available in the back for any questions if you have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Wade. Dave Mullenix from Greenpeace on Zoom.
Not on Zoom, Chair.
Let's see. Hawaii State Youth Commission,
Also not on Zoom, Chair.
Zoom, okay. Sherry Pollock on Zoom?
Aloha, can you hear me?
Yes.
Just want to thank you so much for hearing this measure. My name is Sherry Pollock. I'm with 350 Hawaii. We stand on our written testimony, and I just wanted to say one thing that just bottom line, we all need clean water, clean air, a healthful environment and climate, and to actually have the right to a clean and healthy environment, you have to put it in the Bill of Rights. This is about a shift from merely managing pollution after it occurs Think Red Pill, to proactively avoiding environmental harm, serving as a guideline for developing future sustainable laws. So on behalf of future generations, thank you so much for having the opportunity to provide this testimony. We really appreciate you having this on the agenda. Aloha.
Thank you, Sherry. Anyone else wishing to testify on 2478? Members, any questions? So on this measure, there were 30 in support, 0 opposed, and 1 comment. Moving on to SB 3296, relating to ag, establishes the Conservation and Ag Environmental Stewardship Pilot Program within DAB. And DAB, you're up first.
Thank you, Chair. DAB stands on its written testimony in support of this measure. Here for any questions.
Thank you. Deputy AG Travis Moon or Christopher Leong on Zoom? Oh, you're here.
Good afternoon, Deputy Attorney General Travis Moon. We submitted our testimony with written comments. I'm here if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Amanda Shaw with Ag Stewardship Hawaii.
Aloha, Chair Gabbard, Vice Chair Richards. Amanda Shaw, Oahu Agriculture and Conservation Association, doing business as Agriculture Stewardship Hawai'i. Oahu RC&D now, Agriculture Stewardship Hawai'i, has been really supporting folks who do this kind of work for 25 years. So we have a little bit of a sense of what it takes to support conservation agriculture. And that's really the intent of this measure. Right now, the feds have programs that support this to some extent, but the state doesn't yet have skin in the game. And we really see this as doing that. There's also another measure, SB 2110, which we're also in strong support of around this. And so for us, having 2 bills on this topic really shows that we have to really share the risk and costs that farmers undertake when they do conservation practices. And the main differences between those bills are really the administering agency. And so we're here for any questions. Happy to continue this conversation going forward. Mahalo.
Thank you, Matt. Brian Emoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Farm Bureau is down for the testimony and support.
Hunter Heveland, Hawaii Farmers Union.
Thank you, Chair. Hawaii Farmers Union stands on its testimony and support.
Nicole Galassi, Hawaii Cattlemen's Council.
Thank you. Hawaii Cattlemen's Council stands on its written testimony and support as ranchers have shovel-ready projects for this program. Mahalo.
Thank you. David Dutra Elliott on Zoom.
Stand on the written testimony. Thank you, Chair and Vice Chair, in support.
Thank you, Dave. Anyone else wishing to testify on SB 3296? Members, any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to the last measure of the A10 agenda, and that is SB 2102, relating to industrial hemp. Beginning July 1st, 2026, authorizes the use of hemp-derived feed ingredients in certain commercial animal feeds, authorizes the use of hemp and hemp-derived feed ingredients in commercial feed for livestock, contingent upon approval of the federal government or Association of American Feed Control Officials. First up, DAB.
Thank you, Chair. DAB stands on its written testimony offering comments on this measure. Here for any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you. Travis Moon with AG's office.
Good afternoon, Deputy Attorney General Travis Moon. We submitted our written testimony, and I'm here if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Farm Bureau is down on this written testimony and support.
Hunter Heveland, Hawaii's Farmers Union. Okay, in support, Robert Bentz from the Hawaii Sustainable Farms.
Aloha, Chair. Thank you very much for this bill. I am a member of the Hemp Task Force and the Hemp Feed Coalition that got the first federal approval for a livestock. The seed meal, when you push out the oil, you get the seed cake left. That is a very good source of protein and perfect omega. If I go on all the benefits they hear all day, but I get organic dairy cows, they could eat this. And my biggest concern is the lack of fundamental understanding by the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity's current hemp administrator. there's a lot of problems. So I support this bill very much. But I have a lot of concerns about June model.
Thank you, Robert. Anyone else wishing to testify? Okay, for this one, we had 2 in support, 1 opposed, and 3 with comments. Members, any questions? Okay. We'll move right into decision-making. Members, we do have quorum. Starting off with SB 3162, relating to strategic food reserves, establishing a strategic food reserve program within DAB. Chair's recommendation on this one will be to pass with the AG's office amendments to establish sufficient standards for awarding ag market development grants and to clarify that public members of the Strategic Food Reserves Advisory Committee should be appointed by the chairperson of the Board of Ag and Biosecurity. And we will defer the effective date to July 1st, 2050. Members, any discussion? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. On Senate Bill 3162, passing with amendments, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit is excused. Senator Rhodes? Aye. Senator Alwal?
Aye.
Chair, you have 4 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members. SB 3256, establishing the Hawaii Ag Transportation Assistance Program, consists of a reimbursement program and a grant program within DAB. So the chair's recommendation will be to pass this with technical amendments, including clarifying that interest earned or accrued on monies deposited into the special fund should be retained by that fund, and deferring the effective date to July 1st, 2050. Any discussion? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair.
On Senate Bill 3256, passing with amendments, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit is excused. Senator Rhodes? Aye. Senator Alwal?
Aye.
Chair, you have 4 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members. SB 2741. Okay, on this one, on the GET, we need some, to work some more on this one. So we're going to defer the decision-making on this until Wednesday, February 18th at 3:05 PM in room 224. And let's see. Moving on to SB 2805, establishing a non-refundable income tax credit to incentivize significant investment in ag production. 2805. Chair's recommendation will be to pass with amendments and defer the date to July 1st, 2050. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
On Senate Bill 2805, passing with amendments, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit is excused. Senator Rhodes? Aye. Senator Alwal?
Aye.
You have 4 in favor.
Thank you, members. Moving on to SB 2704. That is on subsistence gardening. The chair's recommendation will be to pass with amendments and to defer the date to July 1st, 2050. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
Hold on, Chair, catching up.
Okay. 2704.
On Senate Bill 2704, passing with amendments, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit is excused. Senator Rhodes? Aye. Senator Alwal?
Aye.
Chair, you have 4 in favor. Motion adopted.
Thank you, members. SB 2174, authorizing DAB to declare an emergency quarantine when it's been reasonably determined that there's a threat to the environment and the state. On SB 2174, the chair's recommendation will be to pass with the Hawaii Farmers Union suggested amendments to protect farmers through timely notice and compensation for quarantine-related losses, and also DAB's suggested amendments to clarify and limit emergency quarantine authority to actual pest or disease threats and regulate only materials that harbor such threats, and technical amendments. Okay, any discussion? Chair votes aye.
Yeah, Chair, just, I'm going to support this going forward. I'm going to go with reservations because I really want to be sure that we are giving the capability to DAB to do what we need to get done. So passing with amendments, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes with reservations. Senator Decoit is excused. Senator Rhodes?
Aye.
Senator Awa?
Aye.
Chair, you have 4 in favor.
Thank you, members. 2885, relating to CRBs. The chair's recommendation will be to pass with technical amendments, including deferring the date to July 1st, 2050. Any discussion? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair?
On Senate Bill 2885, passing with amendments, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Decoit's excused. Senator Rhodes?
Aye.
Senator Awa?
Aye.
Chair, you have 4 in favor.
Thank you, members. And then on SB 3012, relating to animal importation. Chair's recommendation will be to pass with the Hawaii Humane Society's amendments to track animal imports that are not neutered or spayed without regulating breeders, and to shift record keeping from DAB to county animal control. And we'll also make technical amendments, including deferring the date to July 1st, 2050. Any discussion?
Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, though I understand the intent, I am deeply concerned about this because I think we may have some inadvertent consequences on this going forward. I will support the conversation going forward, voting with reservations, but I'm concerned that this isn't going to work. So, on Senate Bill 3012, calling for the vote, Chair.
Chair votes aye.
Passing with amendments, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes with reservations. Senator Rhodes?
Aye.
Senator Awa?
No.
Chair, you have 3 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members. SB 2478, the constitutional amendment recognizing the inherent and inalienable right of all people to clean water and air. The recommendation on this one will be to pass with technical amendments, including deferring the date to July 1st, 2050. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
2478, correct?
Yes.
Okay, on Senate Bill 2478, passing with amendments. On a personal note, I don't like making amendments to the Constitution through this manner. I will support it with reservations. I think we have a different way of amending the Constitution, but I do agree with the premise of the bill. So with that, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes with reservations. Senator Decoit is excused. Senator Rhodes?
Aye.
Senator Awa?
Aye.
Chair, you have 4 in favor.
Thank you, members. SB 3296, establishing the Conservation and Ag Environmental Stewardship Pilot Program within DAB. Chair's recommendation will be to pass with the AG's office amendments to include sufficient grant standards, as well as make technical amendments, including deferring the date to July 1st, 2050, and will also blank the appropriation amount and insert it into the committee report for consideration. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
On Senate Bill 3296, passing with amendments, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye, Senator Decoit is excused. Senator Rhodes?
Aye.
Senator Awa?
Aye.
Chair, you have 4 in favor.
And the final bill is SB 2102 on industrial hemp, excuse me. I need some help. The chair's recommendation will be to pass with technical amendments. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
On 2102, passing with amendments, of the 4 members present, anybody voting with reservations? Any no votes? Chair, you have 4 in favor.
Hemp, hooray. Hearing that, we'll adjourn the